There's a lot of sadness in the world and a lot of beauty and joy as well. This next guest's music has been there for me in the sad times when I needed it the most and been a great friend to me when I couldn't be more on fire and happy to be living this life. That's what I love doing about press. Makes me so happy. So welcome back to the Scandalous podcast. Matty Mullins from Memphis Mayfire. How are you doing?
What's up? Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just moved into a new place. We laughed about like my little struggle bus. We're like, oh, is the light good over here? Over there? It's good.
It's always tough. New spot dialing everything in. That takes forever.
Yeah, I was like, what's natural light? I used to live in a cave. I'm like, there's sun outside? What is that? What? Vampire no longer, apparently. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, so anyone who is tuning in for the first time, Mattie and I have already done a podcast episode before, and I do have to say so myself that we did just the most perfect, absolutely lovely deep dive on Mattie's life, highs, lows, struggles, and triumphs. And if that interests you at all, Scandalous Podcast, episode 50, check that out for sure. This is going to be a catch-up, current events, lots of fun, and I just didn't want to do the same thing over again, so we're just going to be new and fun and talk about all the new stuff. So I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell a cool story real quick about the power of music and why we've all gathered here today. Basically, I am the first to admit that I've had some really sad years the past couple of years. And I think a lot of people have, especially, but everything in my life has been really beautiful lately. And when I was sitting down to write this interview, I tried to go back to the song that hurt me the most so I could put myself there, because there was just this one like 2-3 years ago. And I remember I would just like go walk outside and I would just like listen to it over and over and over again and cry and feel it. And like, I feel like I lived for that song and it sustained me at the time. And I went back to go and try and find it. And I was just listening to like every track on Remade Misery. And I was like, oh, what was it? And it was so funny to me. I couldn't figure out which specific song it was. And I think that is such a testament to how good things can get in life. Mm-hmm. You know, things can get really deep and dark, but I just think that that's proof that time heals and hearts and minds heal as well.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, what's a song or two that does that for you?
Oh, man. There's this song. It's funny, like, when you're younger and you're experiencing new music, a lot of times you're experiencing the emotions that this artist is portraying. And even though maybe you hadn't yet gone through something like that, you almost are able to like put yourself into that headspace. I think Dashboard Confessional was that for me, you know, as I had like nothing to actually be sad about, but Swiss Army was just made me like the saddest emo kid of all time. And I love that. It was just, I'll go back and listen to it just to reminisce on that. There's a song from My American Heart called Tired and Uninspired that I loved when I was 16. And I still to this day can kind of enter into the headspace that I was in then and also enjoy the song in a new season of life now. So that one's really special for me as well.
That is so funny that you said that. You're the only artist I've ever talked to who also got down with Dashboard Confessional like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this season of life, Chris has become a good friend of mine. And so we'll be hanging out over here at my house and we'll be sitting around the fire pit and just having like the most joyful time. And I'm sitting with this person that wrote the saddest songs I've ever heard. And it just goes to show. Yeah. I mean, no matter what season of life you're in, be honest about it, be open about it, but it's not going to last forever.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I've met people too, but like, good Lord. I mean, could you imagine though? Like Chris Carrabba.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. I love it. I love him as a human being. He's so great. He's just like the sweetest dude ever.
Well, and social media is so funny. Like, you know, I just used to, emotionally puke all over his Instagram. So like, he knows who I am and like, he'll interact with me a little bit. And just like, that's so funny that you could like, when you're younger, you just don't think you could like ever be in touch with these people ever. And then you're like, oh, well, that's funny.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I have more of a metal background, and listening to different podcasts and interviews that you've done, I was so intrigued by like the bands that you were talking about Like mine were like Drowning Pool at the time and like Seven Dust at the time, like when my heart was really popping off for heavy music. But you were listing in another interview just all these bands that you loved. And I think you talked about Norma Jean being like the band that you saw that was your age, that you saw on the cover of a magazine and were like, if they can do it, I can do it. And they inspired you so much. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that time in your life because I just loved where you went. Like you went somewhere when you were talking about.
Yeah, I think, like the band that was really close in age to me that I saw on the front page of Pure Volume, that was My American Heart. And they were wildly inspirational to me because we were the same age. And even though I was in high school and felt like I was restricted from like going and living out my dream, they were doing it at that age. And I was just, it just made me realize, the only person in the way is myself. If I want to do this, I can do it. Right. Just comes down to how much you're willing to sacrifice. Norma Jean was the first heavy band that I ever fell in love with. Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child. That album, I discovered the record right around the same time that I went and saw them in Spokane where I lived. They were playing at a place called the Big Easy, and their production was that they had this orange curtain behind them, and then they just had these 2, maybe 4 shop lights that someone had a switch attached to, and they were just turning all the house lights were down. It was pitch black, and they would just turn these like shop lights on and off. And it was the most energetic and chaotic, cool, like, I can't even really explain. I still don't know to this day if another band has given me that same like live feeling, energy, I guess. One of the coolest live shows I've ever seen, and that record was groundbreaking for the time that it came out as well. So yeah, definitely heavily inspired by Norma Jean. That's when I started screaming too, was when I heard that record. And then from there, it just went on to so many bands, Beloved and Blindside, bands that were like, popping around the same time and just putting out crazy, amazing music. And so yeah, Blindside was another huge inspiration for me. We might have some sort of collaboration coming that I haven't talked about yet, so be on the lookout for that.
Fabulous. You heard it here first, folks. There you go.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so you and I, when I talk about like my music journey and you talk about yours and you did it again, and this is like what kind of sparked me to ask. I always remember the first show I ever went to that I realized the industry were real and the people were real. And it was Crossfade, Seether, and I'll share like and I think it's cool to talk about this too. Like my mom was being the crap out of me at the time. Like it was a bad time.
Oh, jeez.
But like also, I think one cool thing, like you can forgive. And I think like, it's such a hard topic, but I do like to kind of mention it sometimes because I really love my mom and we have a really great relationship now. And like, it's so different from when it was back then.
That's amazing.
I think it's cool to talk about because like, yeah, there were just like horrible things that happened, but also like, it's fine. We have a great time and I love my mom. We have so much fun. And like, I think it's cool to talk about like forgiveness and moving past those things as well. So I like to talk about that at any opportunity I can. I think it's really cool to talk about it, but I just going and, you kind of talk about like heavy music. I am so happy and I'm so well adjusted because during that time I could like have a fight with my mom and go to a Seven Dust show. And I could have a fight with my mom and go to a Drowning Pool show. And heavy music, like I feel like I would be a lot more messed up than I am. And I'm just like this happy kid now because
it's an amazing outlet for so many people. Millions, right? I mean, just people all over the world that utilize heavy music as a way to release natural aggression. I mean, that's something that's inside all of us that for most people, is like pent up and there's never truly an outlet for so many people to be able to let go or release that kind of emotion. And heavy music is such an amazing outlet for that.
So you just got off tour with Asking Alexandria. How was the tour? And now what is your favorite Asking Alexandria song?
Um, the tour was amazing. We actually just announced the second leg of it, which is happening in the fall. So I got home from that tour, immediately started like prepping for this Anne Berlin tour that I'm about to go on, which is essentially 12 weeks straight. And then I get home for 4 days and go onto that second leg of the Memphis asking run. So it's a lot, but it's cool. I mean, I can't complain. The tour was awesome. My favorite asking song now. Yeah, I don't know. I think Psycho's cool. I love that as a band that came up the same that we did, you know, like Warped Tour being so influential and like having spread the word about our music without utilizing or without having the ability to utilize radio. Now seeing them having so much success at radio is awesome. It's like tapping into and experiencing a completely different market this late in your career is rare, right? And so I think Psycho was the fourth number one, maybe third, and then now there's a fourth. But that's just been cool to see, you know, and to see those songs and the reaction they get live, even though they're not like quote unquote heavy songs, right? Is awesome. It's inspiring for sure. So it's been cool.
Very cool. Yeah, you said Warped Tour, and before you said Warped Tour, I was like, 4 weeks, or what is that? 6? Oh gosh, like what is that? Can be like 12 weeks or something.
Yeah, Warped Tour was a long one for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you miss it so much. You're doing your own Warped Tour.
Yeah.
We love that. Really.
Yep.
That's awesome. But hey, you're making up for lost time with the pandemic. You're like, I'm going to tour as much as possible. I'm going to do it all, and I'm going to do everything. It's going to be great.
It seems like everybody is kind of doing that. You know, so many bands on tour. It's funny, like back in the day, there's just like hundreds of tour buses that you could choose from. You know, there's like, all right, well, here's our budget and here's like what we need for the amount of like crew members we have or whatever. And now it's like, here's the one bus that's available in all of America, make it work. And you're like, okay, does it work? Let's just fingers crossed that it works so that we can get to, you know, show to show. It's a wild market now. It's like taking 2 years off of any live music. Not only, you know, everybody is making up for lost time, but also like all these bands are like getting back together now and touring, even though they weren't touring pre-pandemic and everything. So it's just it's a wild market between bus availability and venue availability. Everyone's like, why are you going from Salt Lake to Portland to Boise to Seattle to California? And like, why is that the routing? It's like, well, that's when the venues were available. Otherwise they're booked, you know, all the remaining days of the week. So it kind of changed everything. But yeah, I know that people are excited to be back on tour and people are excited to be back going to shows. And it almost feels, you know, completely normal at this point, as if the pandemic didn't happen. So I think it's a good thing to see live music thriving like that, you know?
Yeah. And I definitely think we're in this really cool heyday. Like you said, like thriving. I feel like 2024 is already a really exciting year.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah. I feel like so much is happening, and it's just like, it's all really good, man. Like,
yeah.
It's
like great.
Well, there you go. Well, I have to admit, it's never been more fun to not have it all together. And sometimes I get a little jaded, a little unimpressed with music sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But I am very impressed with the new single, Chaotic. I love that song. Well, I've got a fun question. I've got a serious one. Then I have an expand one. Fun one first. What's one chaotic thing in your life that you embrace and you wouldn't have any other way?
Having 2 dogs. They're so awesome. I'm joking, but they are crazy, but they're awesome. Yeah, chaotic. It's more so about the song is about just almost creating so many distractions in life to be able to ignore the painful things in life. You know, whether it's your job or anything that you get distracted by, hobbies or anything, to kind of almost welcome the chaos so that the things that you're not addressing seem a little bit more distant. You know, I think it's something that we all do to a certain extent. Social media, your phone in your hand, you know, scrolling instead of addressing internal things that need to be addressed. I think to a certain extent, we all crave the type of chaos that will distract us from reality. And so, you know, that's me. And I think that's a lot of people. Substance abuse is a big one, right? You know, like I'm going to go down this path of destruction, to alleviate all the things that I'm feeling about reality and what's happening over here. So yeah, dog jokes aside, you know, I've been down a lot of different paths personally, as forms of distraction. That the song is honest, but it's not the healthy route, right?
I was about to say, oh, you mean my favorite coping mechanism?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like no, and I think there's
Stay
like a
busy.
lot. Yeah, and there's also like I avoid certain music. Like I just had Cold on the podcast, and we'd been talking about like podcasting. We'd become friends for like 3 years,
Yeah,
and I did like such a because like kind of their music specifically. Like I I avoid some of those songs because like they make me feel, and I'm like whoa 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 whoa, can't do that right now. I have to pay
yeah,
bills. Like I have to pay rent. Like I can't think
yeah,
about this. I
yeah,
can't be laying around in chemistry class listening to Dashboard Confessional. That's for sure.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I felt like the song was more lighthearted than what you just described. So thank you. That's such a
Yeah, it's
beautiful
fun.
way.
It's kind of it's different because the song has an upbeat feel to it. Like it's like fun feeling. But the concept very much is not, right? There is a certain point in therapy where I was doing what's called EMDR therapy, which I think is incredible. And I was able to realize that at a young age, I was seeing so much trauma and experiencing so much trauma that my defense mechanism that I had created myself as a child was to try to always be happy, because I felt like if I wasn't happy for the sad people around me, they were going to try to take their own lives, because it was something that I was watching right in front of me. Um, and so became my brain became this like, be happy always or else. And that's a pretty chaotic thing, pretty chaotic way to feel, you know, like I'm not allowed to feel the full spectrum of emotions. I need to be stoked for all the people around me all the time to save their lives, you know? Um, and, uh, and to be that person for everyone around you all the time, and to never give yourself time to reflect and relax, I think is ultimately what sparked the theme for that song. Um, Will Smith actually said once, he said, you know, like everybody lives their lives as if pleasure is the end goal. We're constantly seeking pleasure, whether it be from a high from a substance, or sex addiction, or, you know, like just seeking praise, seeking validation on social media, when the human brain, what it actually wants is peace. And pleasure, too much pleasure, actually causes chaos for the human brain. And I thought that was fascinating. You know, always chasing a high, trying to ride this wave up here, when what your body really wants, your brain and your body really wants, is for you to just sit and be with maybe nature, or in silence, to be able to be with your thoughts. And as a society, we do the exact opposite of that, which I find ironic. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I resonate so much with what you just said, and I think it's a gift. I think like the whole point of this, it's like not for me, not for you, but like for other people who are experiencing the same thing. And kind of, I have a little bit of a similar story growing up where I had someone in my life, if I expressed how I felt, they would be like, oh, well, I'll just go kill myself then. And they would say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's cool. Like, honestly, I'm in a great place, but like there are a lot of people who aren't. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this group of like new group these new group of girls, and I just think like I see the world in them, and I'm 36 and they're like in their 20s, and they're like 25 and 27, and I was hanging out with them, and they're younger than me, you know, like why is someone in their 30s connect with someone in their 20s, you know, like sometimes socially it's like not there, but gosh, just it was so fun being able to sit there and talk to them and be like, oh, girl, you're going to get through this. And like, oh, girl, I know what you're talking about. And I just think it's cool in that way to be able to share specifics just so other people know, like, it's not just one person.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
So anyways, that's why I just wanted to say like, oh, hey, me too. Yeah, we struggle with that so much. And I was just kind of processing everything that you said of just like, God, we do need to just sit still. And like, I do social media for a living for clients, and then I do my own. So I'm just never not on my phone.
Yeah, it's hard. It's such a foreign thing to be in silence in this day and age, you know? So you gotta like make time for it. Otherwise it just won't happen.
I know, it's just so chaotic, I swear. There you go. Well, and kind of like talking about chaotic, there's been a real shift, I think, in our lifetime of musicians writing songs like, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do this and you did this to me, we'll all react this way or something like that. And I feel like maybe kind of like, I don't mean to, cite the pandemic for everything, but maybe like since the pandemic, I feel like the way you, I feel like the way artists write music now isn't so external, but it's now internal, like inside of our heads. And so much of music is kind of like shifted to external to internal. Do you think about that, or have you ever had that thought?
That's a cool perspective for sure. I guess I haven't paid attention to that specifically, but I will now. As I'm listening to music, I'll be like, oh my gosh, she's right. Yeah.
I don't know. Oh no, don't change anything. No, we need you just how you are. Please, like, keep doing what you're doing. Aisles this way, exits this way. You just keep on doing what you're doing. Like, for
yeah,
sure.
no, it's interesting perspective though, for sure. I'll definitely be looking for that.
There you go. I love it. And something I've never seen before, and I kind of feel like, wait, are you the first person to do this? I mean, we have like, okay, we stopped doing albums and now we do singles. But I just saw on Spotify that there's an acapella track to Chaotic, and it's cool and I like it. Like, where'd you get the idea for that? And like, why? It seems like you're doing that now. So like, what's the thought behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the importance of creating a visual way for people to experience your music. And while I despise so much of the TikTok and like the Instagram Reels thing, I think so much of it is so cringy. At the same time, I think there are ways to give people content that they can consume, because that's something that people want, right? That doesn't have to be like dances and stuff, right? So I started pulling out the vocal stems from songs that we had released and just shooting videos of me singing with it for TikTok content and stuff like that. And I noticed that there's instant engagement with it, where it's like, it's not like some crazy secret special thing, but it's like people are watching the person that wrote and sang those parts in a different way than just like a traditional music video. It's like me and a camera. And I think there's something like intimate to that people are drawn to. And so anyways, I was putting out those videos and just seeing the engagement skyrocket. And I was like, well, if people want soloed vocals to be able to just listen to it in a different way, then let's give it to them, And I think, so we started with Chaotic, the actual like mix master of the song, the acapella version, and also just the instrumental by itself. And I think that that's a way that people can consume and enjoy the music, but also if anybody is like a DJ and wants to do like a remix of the song, the vocal stem is like right there. It's right there for them. They can grab it right off of DSPs instead of having to use software to extract the vocal from a track, or to, do a deep dive on somebody that might have found the stem or something. It's like, well, here it is. If you want it, you can have it that way. And it's not for everybody, but I think it's cool for the people that do want to hear what it's like to just hear the vocal instead of how it sits in the mix. I think it's kind of a cool thing to do. And so I'm sure we'll continue to do it that way.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm not really a DJ girl, but I'm like, well, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if it's just like a kid in his bedroom, right, starting out, that just wants like a professional vocal stem to play with, to dissect, chop up, and everything. I think it's cool. It's cool to give people that. I don't know. We'll see. I've already seen a lot of cool stuff kind of come of it, so I'm excited to see as we roll more out where it goes.
Nice. Well, that is so exciting. Look at you, you little trailblazer. Good for you. Yay.
Well, we'll see.
That's awesome. In the first podcast episode that we did a huge deep dive on your history and growing up and things like that. But I thought a nice way to revisit and talk about it a little bit was just to ask you, when you're back in Spokane or Washington or Portland, that area, what are the things that you just love to go do? What are the things that you're like, oh, I love that so much? And like when you get older, you look at things differently.
So growing up in Spokane, there was definitely growth while I was living there, but I think the majority of the growth of the city has happened since I've been gone. And so going back is exciting. It's almost like there's something new to see every time I go back. I think the most like notable thing is that there was a part of town that was widely known as Felony Flats. And now it's this completely redone area called Kendall Yards that's like new housing and restaurants and all this awesome stuff. And it's just like to see a part of town that people were scared to go to being this new like thriving tourist attraction and also just like local kind of gem is really awesome. There's great food there. There's amazing views, Riverfront Park and the waterfall and all this kind of stuff that you can do outdoors and see. It's really, really rad. So I love going home and seeing cool stuff like that. It's also cool going back and seeing like local music thriving, you know, when we go through and play shows, to see the scene just being supportive and continuing to grow is really awesome. I'm proud of Spokane. I really am. That's
awesome. I love that. See, I think it's really cool to like go back when you're older and just appreciate
it. Yeah, for sure. And if you are excited to just go and also leave, wherever you grew up, that's okay too. But to go back and appreciate your roots is always, it's vital for me at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I think kind of knowing a little bit about your life, researching you so much for interviews and stuff, I think I just like love people who've been together forever. And like you and your wife got married so young.
Yeah.
You're still together.
Yeah.
And when you get married that young and you guys have moved to a bunch of different places, and it's like you get to remake your home and you get to do it together. So I think that's something really cool about your relationship, that you've like lived in all these different places and called all these different places home. So that's kind of a plus to touring, of just like getting to have these like really cool adventures and going to different places.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we lived in Spokane and then Dallas and then Atlanta and then Seattle and now Nashville. Spokane is our roots forever. Nashville is home for sure. I mean, we just have such a beautiful community here, and we like really have put down roots in Tennessee. But at the same time, it's crazy because touring now, since we've been everywhere so many times, it's like we have friends everywhere. When I'm in Austin, I know I'm going to see you, and that makes Austin feel like a little piece of home. And then, when we're in Dallas, and then when we're in, whether it be, Florida, where our drummer is from, or, it's just like, everywhere we go, it feels like we see family because they've been friends that have been coming out to shows for so long. So that is, I think, my favorite part about touring in the grand scheme of things, is just all of the people that make a place,
Absolutely. For sure. I love that. Well, kind of shifting gears, because I love to geek out about lyrics and music. It's my favorite. So we're going to start that now. I think the song of y'all's that touches me the most is, Under Pressure. Hold on. I can recite it like Bible verse, but hold on, let me go. Just so I don't screw it up, like, to your face. Hold on. I'm skipping past the beautiful intro for these lyrics. I'm like, okay. Like, where is it? Oh yeah. Okay. I try to take the pain away. Nothing seems to change. When I go through hell, it's when I know myself. And Oh gosh. It's always a funny button, like when you don't plan to tear up, but
Yeah.
you do. I hate that button, and I wish I could control it more. But like, I hate that.
That button is a lot more forgiving when you're not wearing eye makeup, you know?
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But even I'd say like maybe 4 or 5, 6 months ago, I really embraced this because I used to believe like lies that people had told me about me.
Yeah.
And I recently realized, and I'm 36 now, please don't wait this long. And this is like, I've been talking to younger women and younger people, and I'm like, please believe in yourself now. Please, please, please believe in yourself now. Like, I swear to God, like, I just figured this out 6 months ago. Don't wait till you're 36. Like, hell, do it when you're 25. Who knows? Whatever. But, and that's how much, like, when you say those words, like, and all the lies that I believed, you know, I really try not to sing on this song, but like, and just
you killed it.
I could have done better on a karaoke night, but just the passionate way that you sing that is like, and all the lies that I believe,
are digging me a grave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the same time that
I know myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, if there's anything I've learned in my 36 years on this planet, it's that it's almost impossible to become a better version of yourself without going through something really hard. And so if you're in a season of pain, it's okay to embrace that and realize that you're becoming an even stronger version of yourself, right? And to the same token of what you were saying about, you know, don't wait until you're 36 to realize that it's okay to love yourself. I would say on the flip side, there's no age limit on self-discovery. If you're in your 60s and you feel worthless, you feel like somebody said something that you believed that stuck with you, it's never too late to realize how valuable you are just because you're alive, just because you woke up, and that you are 1 in 8 billion on the planet. Something about you is so special. So many things about you are so special because you are one of a kind. No matter how old you are or young you are, to realize that and to embrace it and to live freely in the body that you are in, to be full of joy and to be thankful just to be breathing, you know, it's never too early or too late for that, for sure.
I wish you had your own podcast so I could just like listen to these like Matty Mullins inspirations. It's like you and Delilah listening to
oh my gosh.
God, that's great. I just love that. I love it. And I'm bad sometimes. I'm bad sometimes about saying God's name in vain. And every time I catch myself, and I'm like, oh dang it, like, I hate doing that. And then I was like, God, that's good. I'm like, no, that could work. Like, God, that's so good. I love that.
You're good. You're good.
And for the biggest mic drop of all time, blood and water. You like to think you're a martyr, but you're just abusive. I listen to that line as one of like the most prolific lines that, like, if you can't afford therapy, if you're low on friends, I feel like that lyric is just like such a friend to so many people.
Thank you. That's cool.
Where, like, I don't want to be too personal, too late, but where did that come from? Was there like an inciting incident or just like a realization, or like, where did that come from?
I had a really abusive family member growing up, and it's very much for me specifically about that. That's why the tag in the song is blood's not thicker than water after all. I think if you're in a relationship that's abusive in any way, whether it's verbal or physical or emotional, I think people stick around in poisonous situations because they're comfortable or because they're scared to walk away, because they're afraid of what they might miss. And I, from personal experience, can say that it's okay when you've given somebody chance after chance to admit and realize that even if it's as close as blood, to walk away from an abusive situation for yourself, because you know that you're valuable, is an okay thing to do, you know? And that song was very much an outward expression of my own realization of that, you know, like it just because somebody on paper is your blood, or in other people's situations, you know, just because you've been married for this long, just because you have so many ties and connections with somebody doesn't mean that it's okay for you to stick around in an abusive scenario, you know?
That's beautiful. Like your music is so universally like catchy and incredible, and just like, God, you're such an incredible musician. But just talking to you, it's like, God, there's so much realness behind all of it.
Oh, thank you.
Incredible to talk to you about and just go there with you. I'm like, oh, it's the next Dashboard Confessional over here.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love it. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about what you have going on in 2024, and we'll touch a little bit on HeadbangersCon as well. So we'll do that. So what's going on for the rest of the year and maybe year after? Like, where's Memphis Mayfire going? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally essentially on tour until November. You know, like we just did the Memphis Asking, all my friends with Word Alive, that tour, which is happening again in the fall. And between now and then, I'm going to Alaska, Memphis. So it's Dayseeker, Memphis Mayfire, and Thrice for one show in Anchorage on June 15th. So that's happening soon. And then I fly straight red eye from that to Tampa to start rehearsal with Amberlynn. And then we're doing the 20 Years of Tears tour, which is 12 weeks throughout, you know, for a long time. And then 4 days after that ends, I go on leg 2 of the Memphis Asking We're Alive thing that we're doing, the All My Friends tour again, full US again. So busy. We've got new music coming, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, it's gonna be a busy year for sure.
That's so exciting. I feel so selfish, but I'm so happy we get you most of the year. So happy.
Yeah.
feel selfish, but thank you. But yeah, but cool.
I'm excited.
I wanted to touch base real quick about HeadbangersCon. So for people who do not know about it, Mattie has signed on as an artist. So HeadbangersCon is a rock metal Comic-Con type event. So bands you love, artists you love, people you've never been able to talk to, you can basically like talk to them, get an autograph. We have live music, tattoos, signings, panels. I help host it. Wink, wink. There you go. But it's just a really beautiful event. And we did the first one right before the pandemic. And we've done a couple online ones. And Mattie will join us at HeadbangersCon in Seattle, November 9th and 10th, I believe.
So stoked for that. I honestly, like, outside of, I do a lot of travel and I have been a part of a good amount of events as a guest, but I've never, outside of touring, ever been invited to do something in Seattle. And so I'm so excited to go back to the home state and be a part of something cool like that. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that all of you that might be watching from Seattle come hang out at HeadbangersCon. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, and a lot of people not in Seattle go to it too. So
yeah. Sorry for travel, really cool. Travel in for sure. Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah, we're like, we like all of you. We like all of you for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is there anything you want to leave us on? Any famous last words until the next interview on the Scandalous podcast?
I mean, just thanks for checking this out, for hanging out and learning something about me today. You know, this whole industry of music doesn't exist without the people that enjoy it and support it. So thank you, and we'll see you on the road.